The first time Madeleine and I looked into each other's eyes was in a restaurant at a hotel breakfast in a small Scandinavian town. She gave me a sweet smile that I remembered all day. In the evening, there was dancing at the hotel bar, and I felt lucky to find her there. During our first and only dance, I offered her a drink, and she accepted. But when the tune ended, the band left for a break, and the bar became very crowded, I suggested that she choose something from the minibar in my room. Much to my surprise, she agreed. She found 2 small bottles of wine in the minibar, and we sat down on the couch sipping it. I told her she was beautiful, which was really true, and kissed her lightly on the chin. Again, I was surprised when she put her arms around me and kissed me for real, in French, and then asked, "Are you a real man?" "No one has ever expressed doubts to me about that. Why do you ask?" She gave me her name, Madeleine, and a noble surname from a prominent aristocratic family, sobbed a little, and then asked me to hear her story before I considered her a whore. 6 months later, she married an aristocrat, the youngest son of the owner of an entitlement estate, which meant that the eldest son got almost everything. Younger sons usually went into the Army or Navy and got little more from their parents than a famous surname with a Vaughn in it. At first, she had been very flattered when this handsome Navy lieutenant of noble birth began courting her. Her parents were very happy to get such a son-in-law. Although she didn't have much experience with sex, she was a little suspicious that he hadn't tried to sleep with her before the wedding. She thought noble people lived by the old rules. But after the wedding, he was no different from her, only a few times in 6 months. Yesterday, during an argument, he admitted he was bi and had a boyfriend. She immediately left their house for this hotel and now wanted to talk to a real man, so she accepted my invitation to have a drink in my room. Poor girl. I felt it was my duty to do something, so I kissed her gently, asked her to stand up, and slowly started gently caressing and undressing her. She had a gorgeous body with beautiful breasts. Not big, but the most beautiful breasts I had ever seen. At first she was very shy, but soon as her feelings intensified, she lost all boundaries and started undressing me. It hit me like lightning from a blue sky. I realized that I had fallen in love with the wife of a noble man. Madeleine and I spent the rest of the night in my room and made love 3 more times. I had the best sex of my life, and she told me that even for her it was the best night of her life. I think it was the fact that we made love and not just had sex that made a huge difference. We didn't use condoms or anything else for protection, and when she asked me what to do if she got pregnant, I said, "Divorce that cowardly lieutenant and marry me. I love you, Madeleine." She became pregnant, quickly divorced her noble husband who had no objections. Her mother became angry with me and refused to see me. Then Madeleine and I went on vacation to the Canary Islands for 2 weeks, got married in a Scandinavian church in San Agustin, and came home as husband and wife, something her mother will never forgive me for. The fact that I earned far more than her ex made no impression on the dragon. Today we have been married for almost 7 years and are a typical suburban family with 2 kids, a good job, a nice house, 2 cars, and, as I mistakenly believed, a happy marriage. Madeleine is still a good-looking woman in her early 30s. Tall, slender, brunette with nice, sexy legs, she is still a great wife to be proud of, which I certainly am. Today, many young girls and even some of her peers are prettier, but her personal charm still compensates perfectly for such circumstances. She works in a bank and has gotten several promotions, so today she is in charge of customer service. I am a self-employed consultant specializing in EU, European Union issues, and I have to travel from time to time. I still love Madeleine, have never cheated on her. She says she loves me, and I have never had any reason to suspect her of cheating. Although the 7th year of marriage is a year when many marriages fall apart, I was very surprised to find that even I have serious problems. It may sound ridiculous, but my problems began in much the same way, as I'm sure you've read in numerous stories where the husband works out of town, comes home earlier than expected, finds the house empty, calls the home number which is switched to her cell phone, and the wife, who is elsewhere, answers and pretends to be at home cooking in the same empty kitchen where he is. In the stories, the husband always turns out to be a wimp who leaves for a night at a motel, comes home properly the next day, and pretends he doesn't know anything. In real life, things are a little different. I did the expected 2-day trip in 1 day, got home at 7 o'clock in the evening and discovered a neighbor girl, Jessica, as my babysitter. She said my wife was sexy, dressed for a party when she left in a black Mercedes a half hour ago, and promised to be home no later than 11. If there were any problems, she could be reached on her cell phone. Jessica is a bright, modern girl who says what she thinks, and she told me that she was a little surprised by Madeline's appearance and was going to call her at 8 and bring her home, telling her about some made-up problem. But now it was my problem to find out what my wife was up to. I paid her a double fee until 12 and sent her home. She promised to call me the next time Madeline wanted to babysit. I went upstairs to the bedroom so she wouldn't hear any extraneous sounds from the children playing and called our home number from my cell phone. After a few beeps, she answered, "Madeline." "Hi, honey. How are things at home?" "Oh, it's you, Kent. Everything is fine here. Are you doing okay?" "What are my darlings doing? I can't hear the children." "Oh, they went to Jenny's to watch a new video, and I'm in the kitchen making dinner for them. Your voice sounds a little strange. Are you having some kind of problem?" "Yes, I have a very serious problem." I walked into the kitchen. Now she looked a little worried. "What kind of problem? Please tell me, dear." "I'm at home in our kitchen pretending to be my cheating wife. You damn cheating wife! Get dressed and be home within 15 minutes or I'll start throwing your stuff out on the lawn." I hung up. 20 minutes later, she arrived in a cab, and we were ready for the first major fight in our marriage. She knows that offense is the best defense, so she started as soon as she opened the front door. "Why the hell are you calling me a cheating bitch?" "May I ask where you've been in that sexy dress? Hardly at the garment factory." "I don't have to tell you anything at all when you're acting like an idiot." "Why did you lie to me? You must have something to hide. Who the hell is he?" "Who? The damn gigolo who made you lie to me? How long has this cheating been going on? Always when I'm out of town?" "What damn cheating? I don't need to ask your permission to go out to work. I could have sworn today was the first time I lied to you because I didn't want to make you worry." After much back and forth arguing, she told me a lousy story about being at a restaurant with an important client for her bank when I called. I didn't believe a word of it because she couldn't give me any reasonable explanation as to why she lied to me instead of telling me the truth, why such a sexy outfit, why the client came to our house to catch her. She probably felt guilty about what they had planned after dinner. She must have had plenty of time to do something, Levin. The truth is, if she had been with a client, they would have met at the restaurant. She would have told me where she was, and she wouldn't have been dressed like a whore. This unpleasantness happened on Thursday, and everything was quite normal until the following Tuesday, which even turned out to be her birthday. We had already invited our friends over for a party the following Saturday, and I told her a few days ago that I wouldn't be home on Tuesday night so the family could celebrate early in the morning. Everyone was in agreement. I planned to surprise Madeleine by having her over for dinner Tuesday night, hired a neighbor girl, Jessica, to babysit, and bribed her not to say anything about it to Madeleine if she asked her to do the same, but to call or text me about it. Monday evening, I got a text from Jessica saying that Madeleine had hired her for Tuesday from 7:30 p.m., which meant she had a date again. At exactly 7:15 p.m. on Tuesday evening, I parked the car in the street where she couldn't be seen from our house. I then went into my garden, waited, hidden behind some bushes, and when a black Mercedes pulled up in my driveway, I got out, opened the car door, but stayed standing in the gap so he couldn't get out of the car, and said to him, "Hi, Charlie. What do you want in my house?" "Madeline and I are going to a business meeting at the bank." I pinched his nose between my index and middle finger, turned it half a turn, and as he screamed in pain and surprise, I told him, "Back off, slut, before you get seriously injured." I wrote down the license plate number of his car as he hurriedly fled. Then, with a large bouquet of red roses, I walked to my front door and rang the doorbell. When Madeline opened the door, I held up the roses so that my face was hidden behind the flowers. She exclaimed, "How nice of you, Jens." Then she gasped as I held out the roses to her and said, "Happy birthday, my dear." "Oh, Kent, you're home." "Were you expecting someone else?" "Happy birthday, my dear." "Of course not. Thank you so much, darling." "We're going with Lena and Peter to a birthday dinner. We'll see them at the restaurant. I see you're already dressed and Jenny is sitting here with the baby. Lena must be a gossip and told you about my plans for tonight. She can never keep a secret." "Oh dear, what a surprise. But please don't pick on Lena for telling me about tonight." I promised I wouldn't, and I could almost hear her sigh of relief. In the cab to the restaurant, I told her, "On my way home, I was stopped by a horny fool in a black Mercedes and asked if I knew of a whore who supposedly lived somewhere in our neighborhood. Never heard of any, have you?" "No." Then I spent the rest of the evening acting like a good, loving husband and never said anything more about her suitor Jens. We had a very good time together with our friends. When I returned home after the party, I saw that she had taken off her sexy black dress and was standing next to the bed, dressed for Jens, in high heels, the sexiest lingerie and lace-up stockings, like a high-end, expensive call girl. I felt anger boiling up inside me, and I couldn't resist the temptation to treat her like the whore she was going to be that evening. I mentally thought, "You goddamn bitch, you dressed up sexy for this goddamn Jens, but I'll give you what you need." When I was done, I just got off her and started undressing, taking off my tie and shirt. She started crying and sobbing and stayed in bed until she fell asleep. The next morning, there was a chilly atmosphere at our breakfast table. I regretted treating her like a cheap whore last night and expected some kind of revenge, perhaps a new attempt to date Jens. On the other hand, I had to end this bastard once and for all, and as soon as possible. No sane person could put up with a marriage in which the wife dated the boyfriend every time he went out of town for work. Madeline and I didn't say a word to each other. I told her that I had an informational meeting this evening quite far from home and would be staying overnight to visit some nearby clients tomorrow morning. Madeline did not comment on this in any way. I set off to fulfill my duties for the day. First, I went to the car rental company and rented a minivan with dark-tinted windows on the back doors, side and rear. They offered hidden parking for my Volvo, so Madeline wouldn't be able to spot it if she drove by. I then asked the girl at reception if they had access to the National Car Registry. They do, and she printed out the license plate information for the guy in the Mercedes. I got his name, Jens Larsen, address, and social security number. Back at the office, I parked in the visitor's parking lot, went inside and checked Jens and Karen Larsen's home phone number. The very friendly woman at the IRS said she wasn't authorized to tell me about Jens' employee, but after some flirting, she made an exception. The bloody bastard worked at the same bank as Madeline. My office is on a back street with limited traffic, and just when I expected to see Madeline on her lunch break, I saw her red Toyota Yaris swerve into the parking lot outside my office building to see if my Volvo was in place or if I was out of town. At 4 o'clock, Jessica called to say Madeline had hired her to babysit from 7 to 11 p.m. and promised double pay if she didn't tell me anything. I promised her the same. 15 minutes before 7 o'clock, I parked the minivan on our street so my driveway couldn't be seen from the house and climbed into the back seat where no one could see me. It was a rainy evening, which suited me just fine. I called Madeline and told her I was on my way to a meeting that could go until midnight, and I loved her very much. She replied in a cool voice, "You choose strange ways to show it, but I love you too." Then she hung up. At 7, Jens' Mercedes pulled into our driveway and she rushed over to him. They kissed quickly and drove off. I followed them to a small Italian restaurant. They sat down and I called Jens' wife Karen. "Hi, my name is Kent. I'd like to talk to Jens." "I'm sorry, he's not home." "I understand, but could you tell me where he is?" "There's a board meeting at his bowling club. He's the secretary there and won't be home until 11 o'clock. "I regret to say that he is a fraud. He is at the Bella Napoli restaurant with my wife. and she has never been a member of any bowling club. Then I told her that this was his third try with my wife because I had failed the first two. Karen had a car and agreed to meet me within 20 minutes. No more than 15 minutes later, a blue Renault Clio pulled up 10 meters from the restaurant doors, and a pleasant-looking woman in her 30s approached me. I agreed to her suggestions on what to do, and we entered the restaurant, where the lovebirds were ensconced in a booth in the darkest corner. They didn't notice us when we were about to sit down at a table. That's when Karen yelled out, "A bowling club? Since when does your goddamn bowling alley play with some whore?" Jens gained an ash-gray color in his face and tried to say, "Karen, I can explain." She splashed wine from Madeline's glass in his face with a shout, "Shut up, pig, and pay!" When the check was paid, she grabbed him by the tie and dragged him to the front door. Outside, I punched him in the stomach, knee him in the balls, dragged him over to a big flower pot, poked his face in the wet ground and dragged him back and forth for a while, then made him land and lie down in the wet ditch and told him, "Had enough, Casanova. If you want it next time, I promise to be a prankster." Then Karen, who was filming with a digital camera, gave me a hug and said, "That's enough for today. Thank you very much for helping me give that cheating bastard a good lesson." Karen ordered him to go to his Renault, and they drove off. Madeline had been crying loudly and hadn't said a word to me during all the commotion in the restaurant, and now stood there shocked at what she had just witnessed. I had nothing to say to her out there on the rainy street, so I just told her, "Let's go home." "I wouldn't dare. I'm afraid of you." "You shouldn't be. I love you, and I've never done anything bad to you." "You almost killed Jens." Karen begged me to do it. She still loves him but wanted to teach him a memorable lesson so he wouldn't have any more fun. I think I saved the marriage for that damn bastard. I promise not to hurt you. Let's go home. She followed me, and as I unlocked the minivan, she asked, "Did you buy a new car?" "No, I just couldn't put our Volvo in the parking lot when you did your inspection trip today." "My goodness, I really underestimated you." When Madeline came home with me much earlier than expected, Jessica immediately realized that something was wrong, and there was a serious problem in our marriage. Teenagers today are completely open and not afraid to say what they think. So she told us, "I really like you. Please calm down and don't do anything stupid that you'll regret later. Good kids and all, you should be a happy family. Shame on you both. Why are you going to mess up your marriage? See you tomorrow." Wise words spoken by such a young girl. Madeline and I looked at each other, and I replied, "Thank you, Jessica. We promise you we will do our best to make everything okay." Jessica left, telling us she wanted to hear the good news tomorrow. When the kids were asleep, we sat down in the living room, and I asked, "Why?" Because I was curious. Jens slept with several of my married co-workers at the bank, and they bragged about what a good lover he was. You know how little experience I had when we met, so I wanted new experiences to diversify our sex life. I was flattered when he started courting me a month ago, and I'd said no to all his offers until last week when you left for the night. I could have sworn it was our first date, but you broke it off anyway. I had to leave the restaurant in a hurry before we even got our food when you called and got angry. Yesterday he promised to take me out for a birthday dinner, and you, like the horrible Hagar, turned up his nose and chased him away. I don't know what his plans were after those dinners because we never got that far. Tonight, however, it was my idea. When we had a good time at my birthday party, I decided to stop any further attempts by him to find a date. But after you treated Honey like a cheap whore last night, I felt terribly humiliated and decided to get revenge. I offered Jens a dinner date at Bella Napoli because I needed some wine to make up my mind to go all the way, which was actually my intention. A co-worker gave me a key to her apartment and promised to take me out to watch a movie. If you had beaten me up last night, I would have understood and forgiven you, but I could never put up with being treated like a cheap whore. It was too much for me. Please don't ever do that again. Anyway, poor Jens was innocent today, and in the eyes of the law, he was always innocent. 2 interrupted dinners is not treason or a crime, and you should know that if he dreams of sleeping with me, it's not treason in our legal system. In a free country, everyone can think and dream whatever they want. But I can understand Karen. She wanted him to be punished for all his previous cheating, and I'm sure she didn't have to ask you twice to do that for her. I'd probably do the same if you were a cheating pig. Even after what you did tonight, I love you very much, and believe it or not, I'm proud of you because you're not a goddamn wimp. There are others? If the experience of different men is very important to you, a night of swinging with a nice couple is much better than cheating behind my back. Although I don't like it, I really hate the thought of it, but I'm more of a swinger than a cuckold. I swear no other. I love you and I won't agree to share you with any other woman. Swinging is out of the question. Please don't ever mention it again. I confess that I have made attempts to be a whore, and I ask you to forgive me. I swear that I have never slept with anyone else during our marriage, and if you still love me, want to stay married to me, and agree to my terms, I promise to be a faithful spouse in the future. Conditions? What conditions? First, you must never treat me like a whore again. Second, you must trust me without any humiliating restrictions like no conferences, no bachelorette parties, no company parties, and things like that. Third, no whining about yens in the future. I love you very much, and I accept all your terms. Okay, no problem with that. But please understand that even I have conditions. At midnight, a new era begins in our marriage. So I will forgive you all the cheating you may have done till today. The only condition is that you must tell me everything before midnight. If any old crap comes to light after 12 o'clock tonight, you're out. You understand and agree. A happy smile appeared on her face for the first time since last night's party. I agree, and am happy to tell you that there is no crap in my basket. Let's spend the night. In the bedroom, she slowly undressed. First herself, then me. The next morning, we were a happy family again. Jessica called me in the morning and was happy to hear the good news about her neighbors. At 11 o'clock, Karen called me to let me know that she had some great pictures of a wine and mud-stained Jens in the wet gutter. She had sent them, along with a note. He's a cuckold, but was punished by another angry husband, to the spouses of those married female bank employees who had slept with Jens. Even those women must be feeling guilty for ruining her marriage. I didn't mind, and I must say I look forward to the next corporate party at the bank if we spouses are invited.